This is Chromatic Chaos, a fractal generating app for the iPhone and iPod Touch. Like most fractal generating apps, it can do the Mandelbrot. But Chromatic Chaos can also do sine and cosine based fractals. Let's have a look at this sine parameter map first of all. You'll see whenever you go into a fractal view that first of all you get a low resolution view, and then that's overwritten with a higher resolution. Within a fractal, you can double tap to zoom in by a factor of 8. You can also drag to move the fractal around the screen. Now you can keep zooming in. Each time it's increasing the magnification 8 times. And this means that depending on the fractal and whereabouts within the fractal you are, you can get to magnifications of millions or billions or even thousands of billions. And you can still see detail. If you single tap, a menu comes up. This tells you the current magnification level. It gives you the opportunity to change the colour palette. And also, in the case of the parameter maps in the Mandelbrot, you get this Julia button. Now what that does is it enables you to generate the Julia fractal that is parameterized by these values. And these are the coordinates of the point you tapped on to bring up the menu. So each point in the parameter map or the Mandelbrot has a corresponding Julia fractal. So let's have a look at that. As usual, we can double tap to zoom in. So this is the Julia sine fractal for that particular, with that particular coordinate as its parameter. Now, if you find a Julia fractal that you particularly like, you need to make sure, if you want to get back to it later, that you record the parameters. We can see what the parameters are by going to the Julia parameters screen. Now, in order to regenerate a fractal that looks very similar, at least to the one we just had, you may not need this level of decimal precision. But on the other hand, this is a chaotic system, and the point of chaos is that a tiny change in the input or the parameters can cause a huge difference in the output, in this case the fractal. So perhaps the easiest way of making sure you can get back to it is to save the fractal to the gallery. Here we can specify a title for the fractal, and you can specify a description. But if you just leave the description, that's pre-populated with a description of the type of fractal. So we say save to gallery, and if we go back to the gallery now, we can see at the bottom is the fractal we've just generated, and we can go back to it. The gallery is pre-populated when you install Chromatic Chaos. There are several things already in there, examples of fractals. These top 4 are all Julias related to the Mandelbrot. So instead of being sine or cosine based Julias, they're quadratics. If we look at example 4, this one has a lot of spirals in it. If we keep zooming in, we'll see at whatever scale we look at it, there are spirals, and that's a typical feature of fractals, that it looks very similar at different scales. We can go to the Julia parameters screen and change the parameters if we want. I found a fractal earlier that was quite nice, so I'm going to change this to the parameters I found, which is 0.274 for the x and 0.006 for the y. And so now we've got a Julia with a slightly different feel to it. Something else we can do is if we go to this Go To button, this enables you to go to a particular coordinate centered in the screen if you want, but perhaps more usefully you can change the zoom level. Now you need to use this with caution for zooming in, because if you try and zoom in a long way, you'll probably just end up somewhere rather boring, but it's very useful for zooming out quickly. So let's just set the zoom level to 1, and that zooms right out. Something else I should have mentioned is that you can use pinch operations to zoom in and zoom out by a factor of 2. Well, that's Chromatic Chaos. It's available on the App Store now. Thank you for watching.